Verizon says 101.
It is 101?
Yeah.
101.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, what? Oh, my computer is totally screwed up. Okay, who cares now? It is January 21st, 2021 at 1 p.m. And I'm calling to order the meeting of the Chesapeake Beach Ethics Commission. Next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance, and we have a flag.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for
for which it stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty
and
and justice for all.
justice for all.
Figured I could take the flag into the house for a couple of minutes for this meeting. Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the December 8th Ethics Commission meeting. Everyone have any corrections or improvements or comments?
Do we need to make any kind of annotation regarding the next meeting, which is this one today? Here, it says schedule next meeting, and we did have it scheduled for the 6th, but we did kind of a last minute switcheroo. Do we want to make any annotation there?
Ingrid, I wouldn't think so. I would think that today's minutes will reflect that it was conducted as a rescheduled meeting from the 6th. But
Okay.
the minutes from the 6th, or the minutes from
The 8th.
whatever,
Yeah.
the 8th accurately reflect what transpired at that time. So
Okay, and Sharon, you heard that, so the minutes of this meeting
Yes.
should reflect what Fred said. Thank you, both Ingrid and
Okay.
Fred.
Uh-huh.
Areas of potential improvement and disclosure forms. Is anyone,
Phil, do we need to agree that we had no other changes on the minutes?
yes, I'm sorry, you are right. Not hearing no other comments or statements. The minutes of the December 8th meeting, 2020 meeting are approved. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ingrid. Let's jump down to number D, proposed changes in the ethics ordinance. I sent out another draft this morning. Did everybody get it?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Ingrid and Mike, I'm not sure I'm prepared to vote today on any of this. But I think unless either of you feels that we ought to vote.
No, I think we should discuss it first.
Yeah, we should discuss it.
Well, we got to discuss, but we could have a discussion today and vote each change up or down. But if everyone's agreed, let's discuss it today, put it on the next meeting's agenda with the understanding that after any further discussion, we'll actually vote and send the recommendations on to the town council.
That
Is that
sounds
okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. During the past week or so, Randy Getman, the chair of the Board of Elections, and I have had some correspondence, which certainly cleared some things up for me, and as far as I'm concerned, made things much more simple. If everyone will turn to, I think it's page 12 of today's draft, section 2532.
What page are we on, Phil? I didn't hear that.
It's page 12 of 16,
Yes. Yeah,
2532 deadlines.
Yeah.
Subparagraph B.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And the first line under B should be crossed out as well. I'm just didn't do the
And what
editing
about
right.
line also of that? I saw that and I was trying to follow it thinking, wait a minute, are we trying to take the first,
No,
last line and put them together. But it
no,
didn't.
No,
yeah.
I think the last
Everything in
line of 3 should go away.
Everything, B should go away is.
Yeah.
uh,
And I was
thinking-
thinking that your intention, Phil, was that the first one would read, candidates for elected office, including incumbents, shall include a financial disclosure statement along with their declaration of candidacy. I was going to suggest period.
period.
Oh, you can leave anything, I was, okay, but I mean, the
It
point is
does-
it's
does-
redundant to the election code. I mean, the real thing is, the election code says the Board of Elections is not going to do anything with a candidacy unless there's a disclosure statement filed with the declaration. And if that's,
Right.
That's-
So I wouldn't include anything else. I would just say candidates for elected office, including incumbents, shall include a financial disclosure statement along with their declaration. Otherwise, you might as well just take B out of there.
that's what I meant, I'm sorry. I'm, regardless of the typographical errors here, my intention would be to take B out entirely.
Okay.
Phil, I disagree because I think chapter 25 and the election code serve different purposes. This one is a mandatory requirement under the ethics ordinance under financial disclosure for a candidate to file. And then in the election code, that's the duty of the election official not to accept unless there is a certificate of candidacy filed with the declaration. I'm sorry, unless there's a financial disclosure statement filed with the declaration. I don't necessarily think they're redundant.
Fred, I see your point. That you should mention it here, because I actually put it in the election code because of the ethics. So that makes sense for you to do that. And also later on, you refer to and candidates for election, elected officials and candidates for elections when you're talking about your form. So I think it kind of clarifies. And when it says along with the declaration of candidacy, well, then he's just got to go to the election code to find out when he has to file that declaration of candidacy, and that all makes sense.
Oh, okay, Ingrid and Mike, what do you think?
I agree with what Randy and Fred are saying there, because if we have a section here that says deadlines, section A talks about the incumbent elected and appointed, and we have to address the candidates as well. So a simple statement like that, I think, runs nicely or runs parallel, however you want to say it, with what Randy has written. And those, our two documents do need to be simpatico. So I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with Randy and Fred.
There's one other point I want to bring up, and I'm not advocating either way. I just want to remind you. So I wondered if this would be the place to do it, and that is when they submitted their financial disclosure, the way things are written, they really submitted the same one that they just did in April, which is the previous calendar year. Is that the way you want to leave it? Or do you want to say something that candidates and incumbents will submit their financial disclosure up to date as the day they submit? Totally up to you. I don't care.
I'd like to have it updated, to be honest.
I agree.
Phil, if I may, let me just share with you how some of my clients deal with it elsewhere. And if you have an incumbent who filed one hypothetically for 2020 calendar year and is up for reelection in, let's say, June of 2021, then they're obligated to file for the period January 1, 2021 through the date of the filing of the certificate of candidacy.
So
That
I
makes-
just point that out because we had some confusion when we were going over it. The way the code's currently reading, Phil and I think Fred weighed in on it and said, oh no, the way it's written, you just got to do 2019 and take that. So unless you put something right here you could change it, but I leave that totally up to you, the Ethics Commission.
I think it should reflect the current up-to-date information.
Yeah, I go with up to date because then there'd be a degree of consistency between a candidate and somebody that's already on the board.
That's a good point, Mike.
All right, let's go back to the last election. All the incumbents filed in April 2020. And then they did a declaration of candidacy, what, in August?
Yes, whenever they want, in August,
And-
September, whenever they wanted to, yes.
The incumbents,
Each candidate was different.
okay.
What do you mean by that, Randy?
They have to do it 56 days prior to the election, but they can do it earlier. Some of them did it earlier. So I
Oh,
was
okay,
saying August, September, yes.
Got okay, and it wasn't
There was
quite
a
sure.
deadline, but you know,
Yeah,
Did the incumbents have to file something that covered 2020? I mean, in April 2020, each of them filed covering 2019.
correct.
And a candidate had to file something covering 2019, a non-incumbent candidate, right?
That's right.
Did anyone have to file anything covering 2020?
No, because you and I and Fred talked about that in emails and the recommendation was that we stay with just the 2019, because that's the way your document, your form was written and also the way things were written in the instruction, according to Fred.
Now that, Ingrid, so our current, what we have now does not require incumbents to update. So there's no reason for any incumbent, well, I'm sorry. The election code required the incumbent to have file a disclosure, but that could have been nothing but a Xerox of what they filed in 2019, right?
Right. And in fact, from my point of view, they didn't even have to give me another one. They already had one on file. I just asked for it. And
Okay.
she gave it,
So-
you know, she said, yes, Sharon said, yes, I have it. So, but most of them filed again.
when you say filed again, did that means that they did include 2020 information?
They did not. No, I don't think anyone did. And that's because your form specifically on the front of it says January 2019 to
Right.
31 December 2019. And that's
So-
what brought me to ask you, Phil, that question back then, and then Fred had weighed in on it.
All right. Now, so the question then is, do we want to change that?
That's right. That's what I was suggesting. It wasn't really a question.
I think you need to change it, and I think you need to have it consistent. And I think you need an effective date. You know, what you're saying, you need to file a financial disclosure form, but you have to have a date of that when that financial form is good, as of, let's say, July 31st or July 1st of that year of the election. Because
Well, my preference would be that you just, the date that they file their declaration, the date that they submit it. They have to submit it's
Okay.
paragraph 7, you know, of the, what's included in the declaration of candidacy. And so they have to file that. And the way the code says that they have to file it prior to 56 days prior to the election.
okay.
So they can date that any day they file it, would be my suggestion. When they
Yeah.
submit their declaration of candidacy and they submit the thing, that's the date they should make it up to. So if they submit it the election's always in November, the deadline's always in September, 56 days out. And so if they submit their declaration of candidacy in August, that should be the day they submitted, it should be up to date when they submit it.
Yep, I would like that for all candidates. Anybody?
Let me ask let me ask a question if I may, Phil. And that is, and addressed to you or to Randy, is there an opening date for submitting declarations of candidacy? In other words, could somebody file one the year before the election?
You know, I have to go back and look again, but I pretty much think the answer is they can file it anytime they want to,
Okay.
as long
Why
as it's 56 days prior.
Why don't you
And-
change, it, make and have a time frame and just make it 2 weeks prior to that 56th day, and then we have consistency so that it can't be any different than 2 weeks. Why have somebody file in May and somebody file in July and somebody file in August? I don't understand that.
Or you
I
could-
don't put that pressure on the candidates. You know, they can, we haven't written anything in the code to do that. I'll take it under consideration, and maybe the council will want to do that.
But let's say I wanted to run for council right now, and I submit my application for 3 years in advance. Would that?
Yeah.
You
I'd
could,
have to look at that, and I'd have to read the code a little bit more in detail.
Let me say that the state deals with that, at least for members of the General Assembly, where there's a requirement that if you file your initial disclosure and your candidacy papers in a year prior to the year of the election, you have to file another disclosure statement during the year of the
Oh,
election.
yeah, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
You know,
That's
I do
just-
recall
that's just
reading something
calendar
about
year.
that. That's not for their candidacy, but it is for their disclosure of the ethics. Okay.
Well, I think, let's think about this. I think maybe we should, at least from our side, say, yeah, you have to, with your candidacy, your declaration of candidacy, you must do a disclosure covering that calendar year up to some point, July 31st or September 1st or something.
I would agree with that.
I would agree.
well, wait a minute. But that's assuming that somebody is going to, well, if you have to file with the certificate of candidacy or declaration of candidacy, you can't expect them to file for a date or a disclosure statement for a date that goes beyond that. So in other words,
Yeah,
they
so,
have to-
well, we're gonna have to, that's what the three of us are thinking that we're gonna have to change the rules to eliminate the possibility of somebody, is about to, make a apparently, suspicious deal. And so he or she files a disclosure, before the deal's made.
So one thing I want to point out as you try to think about how you want to word this is that, yes, a candidate can file in August. But I also had several candidates file the day of or the day before. So they had not submitted their candidacy until the day it was due.
Yeah,
So you can't select a specific date unless you select 56 days out. And then that means they have to submit it separate from their declaration of candidacy. They have to submit it separately.
Well, why not just make it a time frame? Maybe like a 2-week time.
Because if I make it 2 weeks prior to the deadline and someone doesn't declare candidacy until the day of the deadline, 56 days out, how does that deal?
Well, then we can make it so that the information is effective as of August 1st or something like that, or August 15th.
Okay, you could put on your form, if that would be my suggestion, is that what you change is the form. Your form read January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to have changed that to have been January 1st, 2019 to August
15th.
1st, 2020.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then what if I file in June or July?
well,
I
then I'm
think
gonna
you-
have to do, I mean,
That's the
We're-
form, that's the form you're gonna give it. So in reality, we will now have, it would come in two separately. And the way I think I've written it, it doesn't necessarily have to come in right with the declaration of candidacy, but it has to be filed prior to the 56 days out. So I may have to do some rewording in mine. But the smartest thing to do is to change the date on your form.
yeah,
Yeah, well, that has
So
to be,
it makes it very clear to them what period it's got to cover.
yep. All right, let's mull that over and come to some kind of consensus next meeting.
And you guys can just let me know what you decide and whether I can help or have to alter something of mine in order to make it all work.
You have been very, very useful. I appreciate it. Might indeed ask you to co-sign or,
Sounds good.
when we make the recommendations to the council, indicate your agreement or something.
Right? I'd be happy to do that. See, I don't think there was anything else that I had. Do you have anything else for me? I was going to sign off.
No, that's it. Randy, thank you very, very much for all your, everything you've done.
Thank you, Randy.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
Back to all of you. Thanks for what you do.
Yeah.
Ethics is not an easy thing. I think that's tough for the elections. Though our federal election may have been a different case.
Yeah. Sure was educational for me.
I'm going to sign off. Thank you all.
Okay,
thank you, Randy.
thank you. Okay, no, look, rules of procedure. We should make changes consistent with whatever we're recommending to change the ordinance. I don't think it makes any sense to make those changes today. The disclosure forms, we're actually coming close to, we should have them ready, certainly by the beginning of April. The main thing I recall there being problems with is people on the, especially on the real estate, failing to, now, we actually say, if you own or rent any real estate, yes, if so, complete this form for each property owned or rented. Somehow it's got to be, something's more clear than that, which is complete a copy of this form for each.
Or a separate,
A separate, okay. Then, and then, big bold letters. Anyone recall any other
no,
problems
that
we
seemed to
had?
be stumbling block, Phil.
I think the real estate was the biggest issue, and I think you could probably address it by rather than having each individual form, putting into like a spreadsheet type where you have like the name and address on one element of the spreadsheet, the lender on the next block across. So you have a form where you can put multiple 3, 4, or 5 real pieces of real estate in on one form. So rather than go to different pieces of paper, it's all on that single form that lists multiple locations for property. And
Mike,
that's-
I like your idea. However, some of our folks didn't have the best penmanship, and it was, it was really hard to decipher what went where. And
Yeah, I mean,
Less of the spreadsheets, you know, we make sure that where they're writing stuff in, the blocks are definitely big enough for
yeah.
their penmanship.
I mean, if we could have somebody in the town that's, has a fillable form where they could fill it online, that would make it a lot easier. And then we wouldn't have that issue of penmanship because what was it, Johnson or whatever? I couldn't read anything.
I know it. Yep. But then what if they're not comfortable using it online and they want to do it by hand? We have to account for that.
Right, I agree. So we might need that. Yeah. It'd be best we could have a fillable, then you have a database of it, and then,
Sure, I agree. I'm just looking at it from a practical standpoint too.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll make a note. One thing we want to do is have the town do what's necessary so that it can be filled out online
Right,
and signed online.
right.
And I would like, what we have now, I created a couple of years ago, as you know, just trying to teach myself how to do, edit PDFs. I would like this to be taken over by the town and have somebody who creates forms for a living.
Right.
So things literally do line up and they don't look so amateurish. And if you can, Mike, do a handwritten draft. I'm not seeing how we can do.
I've got an electronic version, Phil, that I
Great.
put in I think it was Pages. So I'll see if I can convert it into a Word document and then send it to you.
Great, that would be wonderful.
And take a look and see, it's a start, but I don't know how good it is. It probably needs a lot of work. But if you have somebody that has done forms, and use them electronically, I think the town can use it as a template to start building
Okay. Yep. Because what we have now has a whole lot of words there.
Yeah.
Approximately, what did you pay for it? Or if you obtained it other than by purchase, what was the approximate fair market value at that time? A spreadsheet, that would be what's, in the column heading.
Yep, exactly.
All right, that would, if we could do that, that would be great.
Okay.
All right, and between now and next meeting, would everyone else, all of us, take 10 minutes and go through what was submitted, I guess with the elections, and see if there was anything other than Form A that we had problems with. All right. Oh, on the front page of the statements, we asked for a mailing address and email address. I don't see any necessity for that. It could be, well, take that back. I guess in a regular, during the annual, well, we don't, I don't know, I'm not sure. We're not writing anybody anything. I'm looking at Mayor Mahoney's annual submission. Mailing address, post office box, such and such. Doesn't do it. We're not sending them letters.
But it doesn't hurt to have it.
Well,
just in case we need to send them something.
well, they have to submit an email address.
Which is definitely preferable, I agree.
But then it gets back to somebody was saying, I guess there are people who wouldn't be able to fill out a form online because they don't want to use a keyboard. I guess those people may not want to have an email address.
That's right. I do know people like that.
Well, of course, we could ask them you set it up so you give your email address. If you don't, then give us a physical address or a post office mailing address. All right. Okay, I will draft a message to Holly and circulate it, asking her help in professionalizing this. So, and let's look to see if there's anything that, anyway, actually, any mistakes anybody made because of possible misunderstanding of what we were asking for. We should reword it so there's no possibility of misunderstanding. So it brings us to the next meeting. Let me get a calendar. I can do anything in February except the 17th.
I'm out that first week.
Out the first week, okay. So let's go look the second week. Mike,
Yeah, I'm totally flexible that week, any day.
how about the 10th?
Yes, that's fine.
10th sounds good.
Sharon?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, 10 o'clock, 1 p.m. on the 10th.
Fred, how's that for you?
That's fine. I'm looking at my calendar online and that looks good.
Okay, good.
Okay, and this time, I mean, by golly, we're gonna vote on stuff.
Phil, did you say you wanted to discuss today what you sent out this morning? Or are you going to defer
No,
discussion until
We'll
next
defer
meeting?
that until next meeting. Because we had to have that discussion with Fred. All right, any comments by commissioners or members of the public?
I have none.
I have none.
Hearing none,
Nothing
all
for
in
me.
favor of adjourning indicate by saying aye.
I,
The no, all those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you, everybody.
well, thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Bye.
Thanks, Phil. Everybody
fun.
be healthy and safe.
Yeah.
You, Fred.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Sharon.